Woo!
Welcome to Night Talks, the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications talk show produced by students for you. I'm Anya Schwartzbauer, a sophomore studying international studies and journalism. And our guest today is Barby K. Siegel, Global Chief Executive Officer of Zeno Group, the award-winning integrated communications agency. Hi Barbie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love being here in this studio and seeing all of you in action. It's great.
You earned your bachelor's degree in English from Barnard College. What were your career aspirations, and what involvement in college was most impactful in shaping your professional trajectory?
So when I was at Barnard, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. For a while, I thought maybe I'd go to law school. That was a thing, and also there were a lot of investment banking firms on campus, but that never really interested me. And when I graduated, I decided that I wanted to go into advertising. I love words and creativity and culture. And so I set out to find a job in advertising, but could not find one. At the time, there were very limited opportunities, and they were also looking for people who had an MBA. So my brother-in-law at the time was working for a company that used a PR firm, and he introduced me and said, "Why don't you meet this firm?" And I did, and it had all the elements that interested me, writing and creativity and creating ideas, and so that set me off on my pursuit of my first job in PR. And while I was at Barnard, to answer your second question, I was editor of the school paper, and I was also president of the senior class. So I guess I was honing both my leadership and my communication skills at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't be a leader without being a strong communicator. That is so essential.
I agree. Words matter, and words inspire people and bring them together. So it's perhaps one of the most important things you do as a leader.
How did your time immediately out of school and your job search ultimately lead you to the PR field?
So to find my first job, I launched my own direct mail campaign, which back in the day was a thing. And I typed individual letters to different agencies on an electric typewriter in my parents' apartment in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And so there was this one letter to this agency called McGrath Power Associates. I typed it in, and then I realized there was a mistake. So I ripped it out of the typewriter, and I thought, what's one more letter? I'm not going to redo it. And then a little bird came into my head and said, maybe that's going to be the one. And I retyped it, and lo and behold, a few days later, they called, and I had an interview, and I got the job. Wow. So I graduated in May, and I started my first job early July.
Oh, how exhilarating.
Yeah, and I was on a train to Camden, New Jersey for my first client meeting. And the agency was run by two very dynamic people, and I got to work on, great clients, big name clients in a small agency, so I learned quite a bit working so closely with the two partners.
Yeah, having an intimate environment like that must be so helpful when you're first starting out in the field.
It was incredible learning ground, and I got to do so many things right out of the gate.
In 1992, you joined the major PR firm Edelman. How did you find this opportunity, and how did Edelman's work atmosphere differ from your experience in the boutique agencies?
So I spent 7 years at McGrath Power, and in that time I became a VP, and I was running clients, but I felt that I wanted to work on a bigger field, be exposed to a big agency, because McGrath Power, as you said, was a boutique. So at the time, I was working for a magazine called Child Magazine. And the editor of that magazine was a woman by the name of Kate White, who went on to be the editor of Glamour and Cosmopolitan and now a book author. And I was chatting with her, and I said, I'd really like to find my next opportunity, because sometimes you get close with your clients and you can have that conversation. And she said, well, I know someone to introduce you to. I'm going to introduce you to Richard Edelman. And I had been on other interviews for other agencies, but I met Richard, and it worked out, and I was offered a job in the consumer marketing practice And when I began, I worked on American Greetings, the greeting card company, and I worked on Little Golden Books, and I worked on, then as time went on, I worked on Apple. So it was a great transition from a small agency to a much bigger global agency where the assignments were bigger, the budgets were bigger, the work was a bit more complex. So I learned quite a bit, and I stayed there 12 years.
That's amazing that your influence and your connection with your clients is what led you to that next big position. What are some campaigns you're most proud of working on, and how do you measure the success of this work?
We've recently done work for Lenovo, which is a Zeno client and the world's largest manufacturer of PCs. And Lenovo is very focused on the role of AI and using technology for good. And our team created a campaign where they created an avatar with AI that would communicate with people who had recently been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The work was very meaningful to all of us at Zeno because it's showing the impact of technology to impact human lives. And my mother died of Alzheimer's, so it was especially impactful for me and others at Zeno who've been impacted by this just terrible disease. So that's work that sticks with us and we're proud of and really aligns with our purpose as an agency to do work that advances humankind. And then to the other end of the spectrum, we did work for Capri Sun, the juices. So I guess there was some story going around that those pallets were being discontinued, and there was this big uproar on social media, and it wasn't true. So we brought this idea to the client that we would create this incredible, huge pallet of Capri Sun pouches. When you have a pallet like in Walmart or something. And it was a huge success. Walmart loved it. And it was something like the biggest sales increase on any day. And today, in communications, because of the tools, because of technology, we really are able to measure the impact right at point of sale. So that has been very gratifying work for us because it shows that the work we're doing is having an impact on the client's business.
How do you apply all those different experiences? I mean, doing something so fun as making this giant pallet of Capri Suns to dealing with something so sensitive that you experienced personally with your mother, how do you combine that experience to apply it to your leadership in the present day?
Every day is different in business. You never know what is going to come, and you have to be able to flex and wear many different hats and go along with the cycle of emotions. At Zeno, we do really fun brand work and we do very serious work. But at the end, I think the most important thing for us is, are we advancing our clients' business and ambitions? And it is emotional. You get very invested in your work, but that means that you're doing work that hits you in your heart and your mind, and I think that's a good thing.
While at Edelman, you became a mom to your 2 daughters. How do your kids motivate your work?
I like to be honest that as I was building my career, it was a different time. We didn't have the technology that we have today that you could this was early in my career, that you could go home and log back on. So I did miss some things at home, but I always felt that being a strong, independent, productive person was an important role model for my daughters. And now that they're grown, I understand their work in a way that perhaps others don't, and they understand mine, and I think they understand what it takes to be successful in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a woman, we get asked a lot about work-life balance, and I think the same question is asked to a father or just a man in corporate. Yeah.
As it should be. And, I'm often asked, what is it like, and thankfully you're not asking me this, but what is it like to be a female CEO? And it's not a question I really like. I'm a CEO and I happen to be a woman.
Right.
But I think because of who I am, whether it's a man or a woman, you all bring your own life experiences and what's important to you. And to me, it's important that people at Zeno, men, women, however you identify, feel that this is a place where you can have a life and a career. And that's important to me, and that is not exclusive to women, and it's not exclusive to parents.
Yeah, it's vital. In 2003, you then became the head of global consumer PR for Ogilvy PR. Tell us about this firm and the work you oversaw.
So I spent 12 years at Edelman, and then I was very heavily recruited by Ogilvy to come restart their PR division of the ad agency. The PR agency was connected to the ad agency. And I had never run a practice. They were asking me to run the global consumer practice, and I was like, oh my God, I'd never done that before. But I had spent 12 years at Edelman, and I was feeling very comfortable. And I thought, I need to do this for my career. And maybe that's where Fearless, in some ways, you see my bracelet, Fearless was born. And so I remember on my first day, they brought me in and they handed me a telephone list, which back in the day was a list of all the television extensions. And they said, you see all those empty chairs out there? We're hoping you're going to fill them. And I think, you know, when you go into a new job or a new position, nobody knows everything on day one, but you are surprised at how much you do know. And then you dig deep and experience comes up and you take all your experience and you apply it in new ways. So I was able to leverage my experience, my network, my contacts, and began working with the team, and we built, you know, what was then the best consumer practice across WPP. And we had clients like Intel and Ford and TJ Maxx, and it was a wonderful experience to be part of a build.
Yeah, understanding the foundation makes you such a stronger leader, I imagine.
And, you know, you have to understand what it takes to get people to believe and to follow you and to see what's possible. So those were all lessons I learned at Ogilvy that I then was able to apply to Zeno.
Yeah. Speaking of, in 2009, you accepted a position as CEO at Zeno, the same firm you reside at today. What was it like to return to the Edelman family of companies, your first stomping ground, but now as the top dog?
So Zeno is a sister agency to Edelman. Richard asked me to return. I had always loved Richard and stayed in touch with him even after I left. Lesson to all of the listeners, never lose touch with people, but I've always admired Richard. And he asked me to return, not to Edelman, but to Zeno, to make Zeno a proper agency, and asked me to be the CEO. And I remember having breakfast with him and thinking, CEO, my goodness. But I thought, how often is somebody going to ask me to be a CEO? And after all, it is Richard Edelman. And I knew what was required of a build because I had just done it at Ogilvy. I often say to Richard that the best thing I did for my role at Zeno was leave Edelman and go to Ogilvy. Having all these experiences really formed my ability to advance Zeno in a way that we have today into a global award-winning agency.
Could you tell me more about what Zeno does and what the day-to-day process of the company looks like?
When I arrived 15 and a half years ago, Zeno was known as a conflict shop, a place that Edelman could pass business to that they couldn't handle. You know, if this is not the case, but if they did Coke, we would do Pepsi. Mm-hmm. When I arrived, one of the very first things I did was to say, we're not a conflict shop. That is not a strong position. We are a sister agency. So today, what we do, we are a full-service strategic communications agency, as is Edelman. I think the thing that differentiates us most is our size. Edelman is some 6,000 people, and Zeno is about 800 people. Mm-hmm. And that matters in terms of how you operate, how you can, the speed at which you can move. I would say our cultures are very different. Our culture is about fearless pursuit of the unexpected. It's not better or worse, we're just different. But there are plenty of clients out there who appreciate top knowledge and top expertise in a bit of a smaller package.
How do you better understand the problems your clients are trying to solve? And what's this process look like?
So I think being in communications today is as much being in communications as it is being in business. I mean, our clients are facing so many business and societal challenges today that I always say to the team, the first step is to come to the table as an informed business person, to understand the business that they're operating in, all the external factors that are influencing them, and understanding the business problem they want us to solve. It may be a communications challenge, but ultimately everything boils up to a business challenge. I want to sell more pizza. I want to make our employees more productive or more satisfied. I want to elevate our reputation. So understanding the business environment and then bringing our communication skills to the table. And clients, it's very important to listen. It's very important to listen to clients and to ask questions. You know, when they say something, don't just nod and say, okay, probe and push. I think our job as communicators is also to be provocateurs and to get our clients to think about things differently so they can bring different solutions to their business problems.
Was that a lesson you had to learn, or was that something that you went in with instinctually from day one?
I mean, I have good instincts, I will say, but I think over the course of the last certainly 5 years, but maybe 10 years, I think as the world has gotten more complex, so has business, and it requires a different set of skills. And communications has become more precise, more central to business. You know, it used to be that the communications people were a little bit off to the side. They would come in maybe more episodically to do a specific event or write a press release. And now communications is at the heart of business. And we are together with our clients in the C-suite or elsewhere, working together and understanding the business mindset and how we can add value. In many ways, we are the strategic glue across an organization. And while we focus on the external, as important is the internal and making sure the C-suite is effectively communicating with employees because they want to know what's going on. They want to know what the company that they're working for stands for, what values drive them. And that is all part of a very much expanded communications remit.
What are some of the most difficult challenges you face as CEO and with the staff spread out so far geographically?
You know, I think our globalness is a plus. The fact that we're global, the fact that we can bring a global perspective to our work is a plus. One of the core values of Zeno has always been collaboration, so we work very well as a global leadership team. I don't see that as a problem to solve. It's really a plus that we bring all kinds of different skills and life experiences to our work. I think the things I wake up in the morning thinking about is making sure that we have an environment where people can really thrive, because if people are thriving in the environment, they're doing excellent client work. And that is my responsibility to our clients, to make sure that their teams have all the tools and the information and the support and the culture to do their best work. And then we want to make sure that the work we are delivering to clients is the highest quality and is having an impact. And work moves very quickly now, so making sure that we're not moving so fast that we're forgetting to stop, to pause, to think, to consider. So all those things are really important.
What are some of the biggest success stories from your time at Zeno Group?
You know, I'm obviously very proud of the people we have attracted to Zeno. I'm very proud of our growth. When I joined, we were 55 people. Today, we're 800. That would only be possible because of the clients who have trusted us with their business. I'm very proud of the client portfolio we have and also the tenure of the clients. I think the average tenure of a Zeno client is about 7 or 8 years. That is extraordinary. I'm proud of what we stand for, the values that guide us every day, the fact that we believe in a diverse and inclusive workforce, and that we have taken steps to actively make sure that we have a diverse and inclusive workforce and that we have opportunity for people from all walks of life. I'm proud that we have taught Zeno, like we tell our clients, to be a business and a force for good and change in the broader world. We're not going to solve all the world's problems, but we have our own purpose, which is champion the courageous to achieve something better for humankind. And I think the steps we take, the pro bono work that we do, is important, that we tell our clients, to be more than the products and services we sell. So I'm proud of all of that.
Yeah, evidently, I mean, diversity doesn't just drive inclusivity in a safe and progressive space, but also it drives the business.
We believe that a diverse and inclusive workforce is a business strategy. It's better work. It's more informed work. So while it's a nice to do in some ways, there's real business impact for that.
Right.
And we live in a country that is diverse. So when you're talking to brands and companies that serve the country, you need to bring that perspective.
Yeah, represent all the parties involved.
Exactly.
Zeno Group joined forces with Expedia for their widely successful Helping Hand campaign. You even brought Joe Jonas onto this project, 3D printing limited copies of his hand for promotional sale. How did the reach of the campaign shape Zeno's influence?
You want to do work that has an impact. It used to be that you would measure success of your work by how many impressions you got, how many stories in the media. And while that is an important measure, it's important to go beyond to business impact. So for the first week of this campaign, the unaided brand awareness increased 7%. And then there was a 10% increase in traffic to the Expedia.com site globally. So clearly we hit a nerve with the hand, with Joe Jonas. So that was really good work we're proud of. And work, I think, that was very much in tune and tone with the times in which we were living back during COVID.
Since you took the reins of the firm, Zeno has amassed over $147 million in revenue and grown its staff globally. How do you feel your approach to corporate leadership drove this growth?
I think it has always been, our culture has always been something that has defined us and differentiated us, this culture of, today we describe it as the intersection of ambition and kindness. And then it was the clients that came in and trusted us with their business and our ability to always evolve. I always say that no matter how advanced we become, no matter how many years we're doing this, we are always a work in progress. So I think all of those things together has contributed to our growth and success. And I've been privileged to lead this team, but it is not a one-man job at all. You're only as good as the team around you and how we collaborate and work together, and our work isn't done. We still want to keep evolving and experimenting, particularly in the age of AI. That's never been more important, and in this time when clients need us more than ever to navigate uncertain and challenging times.
The big ideas you develop for clients work across channels to influence behavior. How have those channels changed in recent years?
You know, I think that we talk about our firm as strategic communications, and while earned media is a very important component of that, we are able to work with clients to shape and share stories across channels. It might be earned media, it might be with creators. You know, I think the technology and the rise of the creator economy has enabled us to spread out the places where we're able to tell our stories. So we're not one-dimensional, we're multi-dimensional. Clients come to us for earned storytelling, but they may come to us for content creation, for paid media. We cut across the entire communication spectrum, and that has been an evolution of the firm and frankly the industry. Most firms do that now, but I think at Zeno, one particular point of view we have is that earned media, it continues to be very important. Even though we do paid media, earned is still very important in terms of the credibility and trust and having other people, media, institutions help to amplify your message. That's still very important.
Outside of your 9-to-5, you serve on a plethora of boards, including the Diversity Action Alliance and the PR Museum, in addition to being actively engaged with Page Society. Why do you feel it is important to be involved in these professional organizations?
So I love my industry work, and I think really for two reasons. One, it is important to nurture the industry and make sure that the industry does its own PR, that people understand the role of communications, that we use it to attract new talent and to value communications. I also think it's important for my own learning. I've met so many wonderful colleagues and friends through these different organizations that we support each other, help each other, and to be in business today is to be in a constant state of learning. And it's important as CEO for me to bring that back into the agency. I don't believe that, no matter what your level is, I don't believe just sitting behind your desk is the way to go. I think it is important to get out, to experience the world, the industry, and outside the industry, because in the work we do as communicators, we need to bring all of that to our work. Our clients want us to bring the outside in, and you never know where the next idea is going to come from. A movie, a show, a conversation, an art exhibit. Somebody taught me that early on in my career, and it's advice I still follow today, and I try to impart to others.
Yeah, that's great insight. Your career serves as such an inspiration to aspiring public relations professionals. What advice do you have to students and young women in pursuit of a career in PR?
This is our moment in communications. It's never been more needed or valued, both by business and society, to hopefully unite and bring us together. I think people should find work that they love, that brings them joy, but also go for it. When you're early on in your career, if you see something that interests you, ask. If you see somebody you'd like to mentor you, ask. Be your best advocate. People want to help. I think young people don't always appreciate that those of us who are a bit more experienced, we want to be asked, and we take great joy in helping to nurture the next generation. And the last thing I'll say, as young people, we need your generation in the workplace. You are bringing different experiences, different perspectives that is making our work richer. So know that you very much be in an organization that believes you have a place in the organization.
That's wonderful. I'll be taking that home with me for sure. Thank you for your insight, Barbie. I really enjoyed hearing about how much you care about diversity in the workplace and how it influences your work, how your passion for your work influences how you work with your different clients. I found that really inspiring. And thank you to our viewers for joining us. Until next time, good night.